I was doing a show recently and somebody says right in the middle of the show, hey, when you're done with that trick, can you do a trick for this guy? And I thought, it's a weird thing to say because I'm doing magic for everybody. And he said, no, you don't understand. This gentleman's blind. And I thought, whoa, that's really heavy, right? Because everything that I do, everything magicians do is for the eyes. It's visual. But if he can't see, I have to fool his mind. So right on the spot, I thought of something and I did it, and I'm going to show that to you right now. So can I use you for this? Do you mind? Yes. All right, so assuming that you weren't able to see, I couldn't say pick a card because you wouldn't be able to see which one you picked. And I couldn't even say to you, here, take this deck of cards and take any one out you want, because even if you could feel it, you couldn't see which one that you got. So I have a perfect way of doing this. You right or left-handed?
Left-handed.
So hold out your right hand, put your other hand on top. You have 52 possibilities between your hands. In a moment, I want you to think of one. Not yet. I want you to do it like this. First, think of the number. You got a number?
Yes.
And then think of the suit. So now you can think of them together or separately. You got it?
Yes, sir.
And what's your name?
Ben.
Ben. We got a perfect situation. Ben is thinking of a card. He didn't have to say it. He didn't have to pick it. He didn't have to reach into a deck. But we have a problem. We got 50, 60 people watching. Only Ben knows what the card is. All of you need to know what the card is, or I can't fool your mind. So here's what I'll do. I'll blindfold myself, and I'll turn away. And when I do, everybody stare at Ben's hands. I've got a way of coding the card in his mind to all of you where he doesn't have to say a word. Here's how it's going to work. When I turn away, Ben, I want you to deal the value of your card into a pile face down on the table as quietly as you can. So if you thought of 3, you just do 1, 2, 3, very quietly. And then to destroy the evidence, put the deck on top. If all of you watch, you'll know the value of the card, but I won't. Go ahead. Audience will tell me when Ben is done.
Ben's done.
All right. All of you know the value of the card, but you need to know the suit. So Ben, pick up the cards. I'll turn away again. If you're thinking of clubs, deal 1 card face down, deck on top. If you're thinking of hearts, deal 2, deck on top. Spades would be 3, diamonds would be 4. Audience will tell me when he's done.
Done.
Perfect. Think of this situation. All of you know what card Ben thought of, and he didn't have to say a word. It was just in his mind, and now it's in all of your minds, everybody except for me. And the question becomes, how can I find a card for someone's mind? And I'll tell you how. I'm going to do it by feel. I'm going to do it by feeling for the one that feels like yours. Like this. Something right here feels different. Ben, you didn't leave, did you?
I'm still here.
In a loud, clear voice, yes or no, did you think of the 7 of spades?
Yes.
Is this the 7 of spades? But you see, that's a trick for your eyes. And this is a trick for your mind. There is no 7 of spades. Truly no 7 of spades. Take a look at the cards. You can take a look. Look through them. Yeah, take a look. Thank you, everybody. Inspiration for magic tricks can come from almost anywhere. And in the case of this trick, it came from across the street. I live in New York City, near one of the biggest blind centers in the city, and people are everywhere with walking sticks and who are visually impaired and can't see. So I often think about when I'm with these people walking around, doing grocery shopping, getting my bagels, what would magic look like for those people? And those simple questions sometimes can become interesting magic tricks. And that's where this trick comes from. So very quickly, let me take you through a very brief history of how we get to here. I saw a trick by John Lovick called I Dream of Mind Reading, which I eventually printed in my column in Magic Magazine. And that was a trick that had some dealing and a thought of card and ended with a blank deck. Amazing trick. I did that trick for years. I came up with the presentation with the blind people to do it for, and I did it very happily. That trick has its roots in a Bob Hummer idea and a Harry Lorraine idea that ended with all jokers. But you have to listen to your audience. And if you listen very carefully, a lot of times they can give you the path to exactly where the trick needs to go. So imagine this, you're doing a similar trick to the one I'm going to explain, but in this trick, they think of a card, they deal, they put on top, they deal, they put on top, and then you are able to tell them what their card is and show the whole deck blank. And when you do that, if you listen very carefully, I think you get great reactions with the trick, but the spectators all tend to say the same thing. Great trick, but it would have been really cool if you could have found my card and then they went blank. That's the Holy Grail, right? I'm happy to say I found a way to do that. It's taken 10 years of versions and different things and combinations, but here we are, and I'm so happy to explain it to you. So, what is Out of Sight? Well, it's a deck of cards that does really two separate things. So before you go through this deck, because I don't want you to take them out of order or damage it in any way, let's explain what you have. You have a bank of 40 cards that make up the index portion of this deck. And these cards use that wonderful, wonderful Card Shark invention of the double-deckers. These are these thin cards. They feel like a normal playing card, but they're really 2 cards thick. And there's 40 of these cards. They are right here. And these cards can be spread as a blank deck. They can be shown the other way as just a bunch of cards with a normal back design, the Phoenix back design. But each card, each roughed pair, which is only 1 card thick because they're quite thin, is made up of every card from ace to 10 in every suit. And the good news is they're marked. They're marked so that you can see each one. They're marked in the upper left and lower right corners, and they're marked with the initials of the cards. So, AC is here. Then you have 2C is 2 of clubs, 3C is 3 of clubs, and so on all the way down to 10 of clubs, and then starts ace of hearts. It goes clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds, or chased for short. All the clubs, all the hearts, all the spades, all the diamonds. The cards are roughed in such a way that they're not very easy to pull apart. I feel very comfortable handing this deck to the spectators. At the end, when you show the cards, I really say, please look through them. We'll talk about some audience management about why they never actually go through and pull the cards apart. The best and easiest way to separate these rough pairs is by lifting straight up. There's almost no friction when you lift straight up, whereas when you spread, you can really show the cards cleanly. All right, so if you know the card they're thinking of, now you know by looking how to get through and take that 1 card out. So the question is, how do you see the marks? The trick, of course, is made more interesting presentationally and more impossible methodologically by the fact that you apparently can't see. But for this, we'll use the oldest ruse in the book, which is you're going to be peering down your face with the blindfold on. So I happen to really like visually the way tricks look. I love when I do this trick in theaters and on stage, and it's photographed with me feeling around with a blindfold on. It just looks cool and dramatic. So you've got your spectator. I always put my spectator to the left, and you put the blindfold on, and when you put the blindfold on and you position it right on your head, I can see everything from here, and I mean I can see it clearly. So as long as you keep your chin up, in fact, that's the hard part, is naturally you want to do this to try and get a better view, and that looks like you can see, but actually the clearest view is if you keep it up like this, so as if you're looking forward. So remember to act here. All the little things matter. Like, even though I can see exactly where the deck is, of course I sort of act like, so I'll take the deck back. Oh, you put it on the table. Okay, great. You know, you don't have to say all these things, but you have to act them out. Every time you put a packet on the table, when you go to pick it up, feel for it as if you don't know where it is, even though you know exactly where it is. With a blindfold on, you can see exactly through the blindfold down your nose to see exactly which mark you're going for, and you can then stop at that point and peel the card off. So that's how you're going to make it a little more impossible with the blindfold we've provided. Alright, so I've explained to you the double-decker portion of the deck. I've explained to you the marking system, and I've explained to you how you're going to glimpse the card. But you're still wondering, yeah, but how do I know what the card is? What are the rest of the cards? Let's talk about that now. The deck is also comprised of single-decker cards. This is a term I coined, and you've got double-deckers, which are half the thickness of playing cards, but single-deckers are the regular thickness of playing cards. And they make up all the cards on top of your stack. And these cards are not just regular Phoenix playing cards, because those don't match the paper stock of the double-decker. So when I tried to make this trick up originally by making the double-deckers and then putting real cards on top, when the deck on the table, you could easily see it. So Card Shark has made these amazing cards which perfectly match or very closely resemble. It's a little bit of a tone issue between the two, but having performed this many times, it's never seen. These are the single-decker cards. So you have 13 of these cards on top of the index portion and 2 on the bottom. I'll explain why in a moment, but first let's go over this. These cards are totally examinable because they're effectively real cards. So at the end of the trick, when you say, please examine the cards, take a look, what you will really see now that you know is that I'm going to manage my audience very well, and I'm going to pass these cards out. Yes, please take a look. And you want to take a look? These cards don't come apart. Really look at them all. Whereas I'm a little bit guarded about this index of blank cards. I don't want them picking those apart. And that's going to be the audience management that we're going to talk about. Now the deck comes almost ready for you to perform. There's just one little thing that you have to do. And we can't do it because everybody's going to want to do it a little bit differently. You have 15 single deck of cards. 13 on the top and 2 on the bottom. But 2 of these cards need to be marked. The way I mark them, my favorite way, is to take a little knife like an X-Acto knife and scratch away in the upper left and lower right corners. So instead of actually putting a mark on like a pencil dot or a black Sharpie or a red Sharpie, I'm taking away ink so that it's the absence of color that I can see. And that's really easy to see in dark light on a stage or in a bar. I do that on one card here, and I've done it on one card second from the bottom. So these are your key cards, and these are going to tell you how to determine what the thought of card is. One of those goes on top, and the other one goes second from the bottom. Top and second from the bottom. So from the top you have all of your single-decker cards. The top one is the marked one. And then eventually those end and you have Ace of Clubs, 2, 3, 4, all the clubs, all the hearts, all the spades, all the diamonds. And then at the very end you have another marked single-decker and another single-decker. That's the setup. All right. So now you've got the setup. Now you know every in and out of the deck, but we have to figure out how to put these 2 marked cards to work to tell you what the thought of card is. So at this point, I'm going to take you on a play-by-play through the presentation. So let's start. So the first thing I do is something about a stacked deck right here, neatly in the box or on the table out of the box, screams special deck or setup. So instead, I try to switch this in as the closing piece in my show, or I'll simply spread it as I talk, just to give it like a really casual feel. All right? You invite the spectator up, and you know, everybody's presentational style is different, and by no means are you stuck with the blind person presentation. You're welcome to use anything you think will motivate the actions. But this is the way I found to motivate what would otherwise be a really boring mathematical card trick. I try to be as conversational as I can, so I don't start by saying, blind people, magic, right? I try to be really conversational. So I'm doing this show like 2-3 weeks ago, and a guy says to me right in the middle of the show, when you're done with this trick, do you think you could do a trick for this guy? Already, I hope you're sort of intrigued because it's conversational. It doesn't sound like I've started patter or a script. It just sounds like I'm telling a story about something weird that happened. So I explain the premise, and I'm going to explain it in a very specific way that's going to motivate the actions. Because of course, at the end of the day, what you need them to do is count down the value and count down the suit. But I really dislike tricks where you go, okay, think of a card. Do you have one in mind? Would you please spell your card right now? Like, why are we spelling card? What does that ever have to do with anything except the method? So instead, we motivate it with this cool story. All right, so I say if you pick a card, you wouldn't be able to see which one you picked. And you can't see the card, so it's very hard for you to get a card. So are you right or left-handed? The reason you ask this question is, if you put the cards in somebody's dominant hand, then there's a good chance, because you're dealing your non-dominant hand, that when they go to hand them back to you, they might turn them over. You don't want that. So instead I say, are you right or left-handed? Right-handed? Then hold out your left hand, and I square them, put them in their hand, and have them put them on top. The reason is because one time I didn't say that early on, and while they're doing it and following along with this, they just started shuffling. Trick ruined. So everything you're learning, everything I'm passing on is from 10 years of messing around with this trick. So they put their other hand on top, and I say, so I ask them to think of a card. I'm going to ask you to think of a card, but not yet. You say this because if they just think of a card, you have a chance that it won't work. So I say, in a moment I'm going to ask you to think of a card, but not yet. First, I want you to think of the number of the card. Do you have a number? Now, this is a very subtle way of saying don't think of the Jack, Queen, or King, because of course you don't have those in your deck. So I say the words value and number. I say, first I want you to think of the value of your card. Do you have a number? I have never, ever since I invented this version of the trick, ever had it not work. I've never once had them think of a court card in truly hundreds, if not 1,000 performances. So here I say, first, think of the value. Do you have a number in mind? Great. Now I want you to think of the suit. Do you have a suit? And I paint this picture. You can think of them separately or together, and that's important. Because it is, they're going to count them separately. Now you motivate the deal. You say, I can't have you say the card, because even if you whisper it, you'd accuse me of listening. And I can't ask you to go through the cards, take your card out, show it around, because you can't see. So I have the perfect way of Mike coding the card for everybody in this theater, so you'll know the card except for me. Everybody watch Mike's hands. This is a great way to ensure Mike's going to follow the directions, because you are putting a lot of pressure on him. So I say, Mike, when I turn around, place this blindfold on, I want you to very quietly deal the value of your card, one card face down in a pile for each number. So you say very quietly because you don't want people thinking you're just listening. So let's say he's thinking of the 5 of spades. He very quietly deals 5 cards, and then I say, to destroy the evidence, put the deck on top. Well, that doesn't destroy the evidence, that's going to give you the value of the card. Because if you've been following along at home, you know, I'll turn the keys over so you can follow them. That's my 1 key, and that's my 2nd key. You now have just positioned 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between the 2 keys, and later on that's going to tell you the value of the card. But first the suit. Clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds, that's chased. If he's thinking of clubs, he deals 1. He thought of spades, he would deal 3. 1, 2, 3. As quietly as he can, deck goes on top. I turn away, and what I'm doing is just adjusting the blindfold to make sure I can see very easily. Are you done? And now you turn back around, and it's the most important line in the whole trick. This is the line where you cement everything that you're about to do. I say, think about this. He thought of a card. He didn't have to say a word. He never had to go through the deck and find his card. He never had to say it aloud. And yet everybody in this room knows the card he's thinking of, except for me. This is that rare moment where you take a weakness. The weakness of the trick is he has to deal something to signify his card. And if I could read his mind, I wouldn't have to do that. But you turn that weakness into its greatest strength, because somehow, in this story you've spun, you have made a thought of card trick important to everybody in the room because they all know the card except for you. All right. Again, as I said earlier, I say, where's the... Oh, okay, it's here. You pick up the cards, acting like you can't see, and you're looking straight down. And now you're going to deal the cards and place them into 3 piles. The first thing I do is I take about half the deck in a big clump and get them out of the way. Now I'm going to spread through until I come to the first key. I've turned it over so you can follow along with me, but you're just going to look for that little scratch away little mark. And I deal that one to the table, the mark card in the middle, and this is going to allow me to count as if I'm feeling the cards. So now I very carefully go through the cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I count, and I come to the next key. So I just remember 5, that's the value. And now I count after, and it's 3, clubs, hearts, spades, 5 of spades. So now you've got the value of the card thanks to counting the 2 groups of cards between the keys. The real key here is don't count the key cards, count the cards between the key cards. That's all you have to remember. I counted 5 and 3, so I know it's 5, clubs, hearts, spades, 5 of spades. That's my card. At this point, I square these up, pick the middle packet up. Always remember your feeling, because supposedly you can't see. Put these on top, and now it's simply a matter of going through the index part of this deck to find the 5 of spades. So I know spades are third again, so I can rush through all of the single deckers on top, rush through all the clubs, rush through all the hearts, and I'm looking at the marks. I've just come to the spades. I see the 2, 3, 4. I feel something. I feel something here. And this gives you ample time to lift. I even cover, there's no moves in this routine, not a single slight. But that doesn't mean we don't have to be careful about covering things that aren't the perfect thing to see. So there was just one moment, I'm sure with lots of scrutiny you could lift this card up, but I even cover this moment with a gag. I say, Steve, you didn't leave, did you? Ha ha ha, and now that card is down. I'll give you a little tip here. It doesn't happen often, but occasionally you miscount, you make a small mistake. When I put these 2 packets together, you don't have to do this, but I keep a little finger break. Because if I say in a moment, your card is the 5 of spades, is that right? Once in 100 times I've had happen where they say, no. And at least then, you can say, oh, and you can pick this card up, put it back where it comes from, check again, and save yourself. Now this happens 1 in 100 times if I'm just not being careful when I go through. But once I say, did you by any chance pick the 5 of spades? He says yes, the crowd goes wild, and I drop my break. Okay? Is this card, remember I know where it is because I can see perfectly, but you have to pretend like you can't see. Is this card by any chance the 5 of spades? Now you get an even bigger reaction, but they have no idea what's coming. And you say, yes, but this is a trick for your eyes. And I told you I'd do a trick for your mind. You see, there is no deck of cards. And here I deal all the single deckers face up in a pile until I come to the first double decker index part. This is the ace of clubs. How do you know where it is? Well, you've got the marks, so they tell you where it is. But it's important to get these regular cards onto the table so that when I get to this part, I can then spread really big around. I've turned over my key cards, so that's why they're over this way. Let's turn them back. And now you can once again pick up these cards, hand them in small groups. Please take a look. I want you to feel, really make sure these are real cards. Now you can go back to this pile over here as if you're just grabbing cards. And you also, can you take a look? And you, and you, and you, and please everybody look at the cards. And here's the last little tip. You take the blindfold off and you put it here on top of the part of the cards you don't want them to examine, so that when I stand up at this point, shake his hands, take the cards back and throw them like this, it looks like you're insisting, they really look, but of course you're protecting all these cards. So it's really just audience management and how you do it. I have, once again, I've had lots go wrong in previous versions and even this version of the trick, but I've never had a spectator name a court card with a script I've shown you, and I have never had a spectator go for these cards and discover anything. I've had them reach sometimes, particularly magicians, which is strange, but I've had them reach, but when they reach, you don't take them, instead you double down. If they reach for these, you say, yes, yes, please look, and as they look, you take them out of their hands. You say, that's right, look, these cards are crazy, and you just take them out and say, I don't know either, it's crazy. Thank you so much for helping. So it's just a little bit of audience management and you have a true miracle on your hands. I'm joined by my friend Christian Schenk, owner of Card Shark, and this is our third collaboration together. There was Prism Deck, and then Inferno, and now this new trick. So I'm thrilled to have you here, and thanks for producing both the double-deckers and the single-deckers. That was the real key to allowing this amazing deck to do its thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm really proud of finally having the single deckers available, not only the double deckers, and combining both in one single project in one deck is just the key to this amazing effect. And well, at the beginning we had to glue cards together, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what you had to do the first time when you fooled us badly with this. And I think the greatest part of it was when Roger, my Card Shark USA guy, prepared the first deck for you, and well, he was pulled over, and Josh performed it for us, and you fooled him with his own deck that he prepared for you. That was really
I asked him. I asked him to like make me this thing, double deckers, marked, whatever, and then he sent it to me, but he didn't know what it was for, and I wanted to thank him, so I pulled a big group over, and there was a lot of magicians and friends around, and I did the thing for him, and he said, I'm totally fooled. And I said, well, you made the deck, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for producing such an amazing thing, and I hope they enjoy using it as much as I have.
Absolutely. You will have fun with this effect.
Well, that's it. That's the explanation of this trick, and truly, I hope you enjoy it. You know, magic does different things to different people. A lot of tricks are just meant to bring a smile to somebody's face or really make them think, what the? But this is one of the few tricks I do that truly affects people. It's a story that means something. It's a deep impossibility. It bothers people. I'm proud to say it makes people get on their feet to applaud at the end of a show if you use it right. It's an extremely powerful weapon. I hope you give it the time it deserves and you don't see this trick simply because it's easy and there's no sleight of hand and think, I'll just perform this without practicing. The script, the way the things come together, it's vitally important that you give it the time that I think it deserves. I hope you have fun with it. You know me probably, you know I'm an accessible guy. If you write me and email me with your experiences or your questions or anything else, I'm happy to talk with you about it, and I'll be excited to see what you do with this trick. So best of luck and see you next time.